This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. As a mother of two, author Nancy Phillips, our guest on the program, is keenly aware of the importance of teaching children financial skills early on before bad habits occur. With this in mind, she created the Zella Wella Kids book series for parents to teach their children these essential life skills. We'll be talking about it on the program today with the author, Nancy Phillips. Nancy, welcome to This Week in America. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Rick. I'm really happy to be here.
First question I have to ask is, where did you get the name for the book series? I love it. Zella Wella Kids, and the website is zellawellakids.com. That's Z-E-L-A-W-E-L-A kids.com. But where did you come up with that name?
Well, actually, the root of it came from the word Wella, and Wella means basically it's the root of wealth, and that means an abundance of valuable resources. And when you're around little kids, you just realize how they are absolutely full of valuable resources like determination and optimism and belief in themselves. They've got all these really wonderful characteristics and traits that I really feel it's important we support and we want them to develop and hang on to forever. And so it's about that wealth from within. And then a group of kids and I, we just wanted to find a word that rhymed with Wella to make it fun. And we went through the whole alphabet, obviously, got to the last letter, and that's what stuck, Zella Wella.
It's a good thing you found one there, because you were running out of options when you got to Zella. You know, the thing that's interesting, and you talk about kids, and they're like sponges. They see everything. When you're thinking they're not paying any attention, they repeat something you said that you were hoping they would hear and retain. Are we missing opportunities with young kids to really teach them, and really not teach in a way that we're telling them we're teaching, but they pick up on financial advice and tips that will be with them forever?
Oh, absolutely, Rick. I mean, it's now more apparent than ever that, you know, your belief systems around money are created during childhood. And so if we can talk to our children about why we're making the decisions we're making on a daily basis and just make it a topic of discussion, I think the critical thing for parents to understand everywhere is that they're learning anyway. They're watching what you're doing, they're modeling behavior, they're observing. So it's all going into their subconscious, whether you want them to be learning, like you say, what you're doing and what you're saying anyway, it's happening. So by being conscious of our actions and conscious of our words, we can really, really give our children a great gift for the future by helping them develop good belief systems around money and how to make decisions with it.
Well, and you talk in the book about the child's mental money blueprint, and whether we want to admit it or not, they really, at that age, are sort of forming their thoughts on money, whether it's available and whatever I want I can get, or whether, okay, I'm being taught to be frugal and I need to save and I need to be able to establish the difference between needs and wants.
Absolutely. And T. Harv Eker, the best-selling author of The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, really brought that whole concept out, that your blueprint is created during childhood by the people who are of influence around you. And so by helping our children, you know, distinguish between what a need and a want is, and that was the reason I wrote that book. My little boy was 2.5, 3, and of course, as every parent knows, when you go into the grocery store now, there's a toy aisle.
Yes.
And it just creates havoc. And so, you know, I was doing my research for these books and so forth anyway, and I just thought I need a tool here to help him understand that, you know, no, you can't have everything and what the difference is, so that they're learning how to make choices and make decisions on their own over time as they mature.
Well, you have several books. One that I had a chance to look at last night, Zella Wella Kids Learn About Needs and Wants. And you mentioned you go to the grocery store, and these are financial literacy products for children. Very well illustrated, very well written, and how just going to the grocery store, you were able to teach so many financial lessons to children. It's amazing.
Oh, it is. That's one of the best places to teach, actually, because not only do they ask about things they want, but, you know, if your child is young and they're just learning about what money looks like, it's really important to use cash with a young child so they actually understand what a financial transaction is. So if you let them hand over the cash, they can begin to learn what the coins are worth, how to identify them, how to add and subtract. You can talk about the value of things, you know, buying something that's cheaper might not be better, get them to comparison shop. The list goes on and on, but the grocery store is a really valuable classroom, basically.
Well, at checkout in the book, it's interesting because you are using money, and the kids are like, "Where's the ATM bank card?" It's almost in their mind like that's not even money at that point. You're just giving them the piece of plastic, and they really don't sense anything that that it actually is money that you're spending on those items.
That's right. Like the plastic that parents use now, we have to remember that our kids are not really seeing anything happen, and they're very, very visual. Our brains learn by pictures and in pictures. We're very visual creatures. And so by kids not seeing any transaction there, they really are not getting a feel for what's happening. And of course, it's impossible for them to understand the literal value of it. So by using cash, it's really helpful. But then it also, you've got that opportunity to discuss what a debit card is if they're old enough, and what the difference between that and a credit card is. So there's a lot of opportunity there to discuss, okay, the debit card actually is taking money directly out of my account. And that's why it's good for them to have their own little bank, so they understand when the money comes out, it's gone.
Well, and there was an example where I think it was butter that you were looking at, and you explained to the kids that I think we're going to look at another store because they're expensive with their price of butter here. So that sort of in a very subtle way teaches them sometimes you really need to look around and compare prices rather than just buy it.
Exactly. In a lot of cases these days, we're in such a rush. We just kind of, we're putting things in and we're not really thinking. And one of the most important lessons we can teach our children is to actually think about their financial decisions. If we're always doing things just out of a rush and not really considering or going through the decision-making process, we're showing our children as well that they don't need to go through it, that they can just throw whatever they want in the cart. And that's a really, really negative lesson to teach them as they grow up, because they're not going to be used to going through that decision-making process either.
You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Our website is thisweekinamerica.us. Nancy Phillips is our guest on the program, author, financial expert, MBA. Created the series Zella Wella Kids, a series of books, also some audio tapes available. Check out the website, ZellaWellaKids.com, ZELAWELA Kids.com. And I know, Nancy, one thing that you talk about, and you hear a lot of financial experts talk about it, that you really need to get started, and you don't need to be a financial whiz to get started and to teach your kids. I mean, we just talked a couple minutes about what you have in your book, Learn About Needs and Wants, and that's all very basic stuff, and it's a very valuable life lesson for kids.
Oh, absolutely. I think, that's one of the great messages for parents and grandparents to know, is that in order to help our children really prepare for a good life financially and a fulfilling life, is we don't have to be teaching them complex things. It's really, the building blocks are very basic, and it really comes down to the parent recognizing that they are the most influential financial teacher their child is ever going to have. So they really need to step up and be committed to teaching their child, and realizing at the same time, what I have to do is not difficult. I just need to be aware enough to talk about these things, talk about the value of something at the store, show them you're making decisions. The messages are very simple, and that's actually why I've created kind of guidelines by age. I needed a roadmap, and there wasn't one that existed, and so I've created that, and I'm excited to share that with parents through the audio in a few weeks. But the messages should be simple, because you want them to be age appropriate so they can apply them and think about the ideas. And then really it comes down to practice. It's just like a sport. You've got to practice the basic skills in order to learn and master, and then go to the next level. And that's really what it is as well. A 2-year-old can be learning how to identify and count coins. 5-year-old can build their GIST bank, I call it, build a little bank, learn how to divide up their money. It just increases with age, but there's nothing complex that has to be taught at home. If the child learns these skills and gets confidence to further learn in the future, they can learn about investing and so forth, because they'll have the confidence to ask questions.
One thing you talk about is using the GISS method, and you talk about dividing money, that type of thing. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the different categories. So many people say, and as I'm reading this, it really makes sense, and a lot of adults really probably should do that too, where you take your money, you divide it in different categories, and all of a sudden it's rather simple to handle a budget.
Absolutely. The GIST method, Give, Invest, Save, and Spend, is what the acronym stands for. It is such a powerful wealth building system, because it really takes out a lot of the emotion of the decision making. I mean, a lot of us know we should be saving, we know what we should be doing, but it doesn't mean that's what the person's going to do, because there's a lot of psychology and emotion involved in buying decisions and so forth. You know, you buy emotionally, you justify logically, right?
Yes.
And so the GIST system really helps remove all of that. And if a child starts this when they're young, it's going to have profound effects on their financial future, because what they're learning to do is they're learning how to, well, the spending is critical because they're learning from experience the consequences of their actions. The saving is allowing them to learn how to goal set. So they're learning how to make choices of what they want to save for, and they can really see their successes, and they learn how to prioritize. It's also critical for helping them develop self-control, and the delayed gratification is really important for them in the future. If they want to work for something hard that takes time, it's good to develop that when they're young. And then the investing is something that can be very abstract for a young child, but if they get used to the fact that they're putting money away in order to prepare for their future, there's kids that are 7 and 8 years old that are already interested in certain companies that make products they like, or they can buy some silver. I know one little guy that was 5, and he wasn't very interested in putting money away, part of his allowance away for investing, until he saw his older sister with a handful of silver that she had just purchased. And when he saw it, he was like, I want some of that. And then he became enthusiastic about putting money in there. So, you know, the problem these days for many people who did save is that they saved and then spent their money on items that were material items, like a car, like a house, like a pool. And you can't live on those. In retirement, you have to have cash flow. And so it's really critical to have money going away for that right now. And if our children start to do this at a young age, and they continue with that throughout their life, like they get their tax refund and they divide it up, just imagine how much faster they're going to be mortgage free and build their investments.
You're listening to This Week in America, our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can log on and you can link on to all of Nancy's information. Nancy Phillips, our guest on the program. She's the founder of Dollar Smart Kids Enterprises. She's the author of the Zella Wella Kids Financial Storybook Series. It's an excellent series. It's what we've been talking about in the program. Her website is ZellaWellaKids.com, ZELAWELA Kids.com. All that information at our website as well. When you're talking about the GIST method there, it basically in all these categories, and we'll start with give, it's not just that, you know, it's a financial message there, but as well as you're talking about kids building self-confidence and feeling good about themselves, whether they're building for a goal or, in this case, helping somebody else.
Absolutely. The give portion, and that's what I recommend parents start with, that they actually do give, invest, save, and spend as the order of putting the money in, because the conversations and the actual thought processes that young children have around this are unbelievable. And as they begin to give to help others, they really become aware of their ability to make a difference in their community and in their world, and that it just increases their self-confidence and their self-worth. I mean, I've heard it said that generosity is like a wonder drug, and it really is. It changes a person, and this is a really valuable thing for our children to experience.
When you practice that method, and it's something that you have done, and you've got your children, tell me about what that relationship. I would think that probably even opens up another whole new avenue in your relationship with kids. Not only, you know, basically giving them lessons, but the fact that, you know, you've got this dialogue on a different level.
Absolutely. You know, the lessons go far beyond financial. There's a real bonding. You're really getting to know your child because you find out what's important to them. I can remember the first time we were doing it when my daughter brought up Africa and wanting to not just give money, but to get them water and she said, you know, why don't we send them some seeds so they can start to grow their own food? So she started going through the thought, this is when she was 6, and she started going through the thought processes of how she could help and what would make a difference in their lives, as opposed to thinking, you know, what it's like where we live. She was putting herself in their shoes and thinking, how can we help? And so, you know, not only the giving portion, each portion, because you're talking, for example, with savings, they really, really get into that because they have their little, I recommend having a wish list so they can print down all the things that they like. Because of course they want a ton of things they see on TV
Yes.
or on the internet. And so if they print those down, they start to prioritize, and they're constantly deciding what they want to be saving their money for. And that conversation is just fantastic because you're literally hearing how they think about these things. And so the bonding experience is really quite phenomenal.
It's an excellent series. Zella Kids, the book I was talking about and read, learn about needs and wants. Several others, Build a Bank, learn about becoming entrepreneurs. Now an audio series as well is available with Nancy, and her website is ZellaWellaKids.com, ZELAWELA Kids.com. That information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Nancy, it's been great having you on the program. So many more things to talk about. We'll have Nancy back on future programs to talk about some of these topics. One being, we all want our kids to be happy. Comes allowance time, we maybe give them a little more than they should. And kids will say, I want, and we say, okay, because we want them to be satisfied. And you're saying, not so fast. You better think about that. And we'll talk about that on the next program. Nancy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Rick. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.